Within the obscure microscopic world of viruses, which exists between the living and inert, there resides perhaps the most curious and extraordinary of all viruses, the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Up until the 1970s, it was the first member of the retrovirus family to have been studied within the animal kingdom that had the ability to infect humans. Though in-depth studies provided much knowledge about animal retroviruses, this research failed to prepare scientists for the emergence of HIV and related immunodeficiency viruses that would appear in the 1980s. Scientists have estimated that the first individual infected with HIV virus entered the United States around 1970, the disease having initially manifested in sub-Saharan Africa. At this time, doctors were seeing a rise in opportunistic infections, but ignorance led Western medicine and scientists to disregard this warning sign of a growing epidemic. It wasn't until about a decade later that scientists discovered that when HIV infects humans, it causes acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS. This condition attacks the human immune system, making the infected individual prone to developing opportunistic, life-threatening infections. Originating in a place hindered by a lack of economic growth, high rates of poverty, and inadequate health care, HIV was able to establish itself there. It has now spread worldwide, infecting men, women, and children. For many years, researchers contemplated about the origin of HIV, theorizing that the virus entered the human population through other primates. It wasn't until 1999 that the discovery of the origin of the virus was announced, explaining that a species of chimpanzee native to West Africa was the original source of the virus. It was theorized that chimpanzee hunters in West Africa were exposed to the monkey's infected blood, and thus HIV was introduced into the human population. Though no cure exists to treat AIDS today, a regimen of antiviral medications can reduce the rate at which HIV infection grows, but the access to the amount of medication needed to do this is not available in all countries. Through the transfer of blood, reproductive secretions, and other bodily fluids, HIV infects and begins to grow within an individual. Most commonly transmitted through practicing unsafe sex or using contaminated needles, HIV presents itself within bodily fluids as either virus particles or through immune cells that have been infected with the virus. Today, after decades of research and extensive studies, researchers and doctors have acquired much knowledge about this retrovirus. It took years of collaborative work and research performed and exchanged between virologists, public health workers, epidemiologists, and public officials from countries all over the world to fully understand everything we know today about HIV. Using techniques such as disease surveillance recording and origin charting, these scientists were able to chronologically piece together undoubtedly one of the most tragic diseases of mankind. Though some are in denial about the consequences of HIV and AIDS and attempt to underestimate its importance and horrific reality, research and progress of the disease is eagerly awaited for. From the AIDS epidemic, a vast amount of knowledge has been learned about viral infections and the ways in which they attach the human immune system, but also it has reinforced and given wisdom to individuals all around the world that diseases, health, and tragedy connect all humans as one family.